the pulse of the planet.
And you're tuned to KSQM 91.5 SQM. And it is time for the WOW Working on Wellness Radio Forum that we do once a month. And it is presented by the Dungeness Valley Health and Wellness Clinic, Sequim Free Clinic, which provides basic urgent care and chronic health care services to uninsured community members. And my guest today is Dr. Kip Tulin. He is the former volunteer medical director of the Dungeness Valley Health and Wellness Clinic, and he is a retired physician. Welcome, Dr. Tulin.
Well, thank you, Patricia. What a pleasure to be here.
Well, today you're going to be talking about plant-based eating, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, a lot of people want to know what is plant-based eating in the first place, and I start from the position that those of us of a certain age were raised on this idea that, breakfast was sausage and eggs and a big glass of milk, and when you went out for lunch you'd have a hamburger, and dinner was a porterhouse steak, and your only vegetable would be the garnish if you wanted to eat the parsley. And the idea of plant-based eating is to trend away from that and use plants as our primary source of nutrition.
And by plants, do you mean fruits and vegetables, or what other kind of plants do you mean when you say a plant-based diet? What can I eat besides fruits and vegetables?
Well, my goodness, there's a cornucopia out there. I just say pick colors of the rainbow and find a plant that has that color. But yes, fruits, vegetables, legumes, and the products they make from them are tremendously good for you. And the thing about it is that actually, if you look at pound for pound and gallon for gallon, animal-sourced foods use way more water than plant-based foods. And if you look ounce for ounce, the amount of protein that you get from plant sources like legumes, seeds, grains, is closely on par with the animal sources, and you get extra ingredients like fiber, sterols, vitamins, and all kinds of minerals that are not found in the meat-based products.
What about soybeans and that type of legume?
Oh, that fits right in. I'm a big tofu fan, and I have mastered the art of making it actually tasty. So if you're on the fence, don't give up yet, folks, on tofu. But, let me put it in context. For example, when part of this talk is good for you, also good for the planet. And if I put it in context, some numbers that came out of the University of California at Davis showed that a pound of beef requires between 2,000 to 8,000 gallons of water to produce, and that includes raising the corn to feed the beef. Your gallon of cow's milk takes 1,950 gallons of water. And if you look at my little friend tofu, it's 302 gallons of water to produce. And actually, if you use unprocessed oats, it's only 290 gallons. So you can not only win at Trivial Pursuit, but you can win in the numbers game with water consumption.
So what about if people have trouble with gluten? What can they do?
Well, gluten is the protein portion of wheat. And there are so many other ways to get grains. Oats, for example. Horses like them. I like them. And out in the marketplace, there are a ton of gluten-free products, even though if you're not terribly sensitive to gluten, some of those products are actually worse for you than just eating whole grain products.
because of the processing.
Yeah, and the additives they have, the additives they have to put in to make it palatable.
So if you're trying to do a vegan diet, give us an example of what would you have for breakfast and lunch and dinner.
Okay, well, why don't we start with what I had for breakfast this morning?
Okay.
Part of this, by the way, I have to say, being a vegetarian or a vegan is not necessarily something you do to just lose weight, because I have plenty of friends who are total vegans who have some roles. This is really about healthy eating, healthy diet, good for you type stuff. And during the pandemic, my wife and I decided to dedicate ourselves to even improving our diet. So here's breakfast. I always start with coffee. Despite every intent over years to try to make coffee a villain, it's good for you. And I love that, because I love talking about things that I like in the first place. By the way, I'll also throw in one of my favorites is that chocolate is good for you. That's the good news.
The dark chocolate.
The dark chocolate is the bad news, because it's the chocolate that tastes the worst that's the best for you. And the medium news is it's a kind of a so-so effect. I mean, and you don't want to go overboard on it. Anyway, so started with my coffee. Then
Was it black?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. We can get into carbohydrates a little later, but one of the things that I used to do is put like 2 teaspoons of sugar in my coffee. And then a few years ago, I was diagnosed as being pre-diabetic. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm a doctor. I can't have anything like that. And so we really tuned up our diets. And one of the things was no more sugar in the coffee.
What about cream?
I use a nut-based creamer.
Okay.
Just because it looks better for me. But the second cup of coffee is black. I've gotten tougher. So after the coffee, my wife and I like to make steel cut oats. We use our little Instant Pot. I have no investment in Instant Pot. We just like to use it. And what I put in the bowl before I dump the cereal in is a handful of blueberries, a handful of raspberries, a scoop of flaxseed meal. Then I put in the cereal. Then I put a little dollop of maple syrup, because, I'm not a saint. So there I'm getting my whole grain. I'm getting my fruits. I'm getting tons of fiber. And I've had my coffee.
And do you put any butter on it? I mean, how do you feel about what should people know about the fat in their diet?
Fat, it turns out, is not as much of an issue as it used to be. And I'm not totally vegan. I do like butter. I butter my toast. Everything in moderation.
And we might let our audience know the difference between a vegetarian and a vegan.
A vegetarian, there are many types of vegetarians, but basically, vegetarian kind of implies more of a non-violent, don't kill to eat your stuff. So you don't have to kill a cow to milk it, or to get butter from it. Some might even stretch it to say, well, I eat eggs or fish. That's kind of getting out in the fringes. Vegan is strictly vegetable, plant-based.
No animal protein.
No animal protein.
Okay. And so for lunch, what did you have? Or what?
Oh, what will I have?
Oh, you haven't had lunch yet?
Oh, no.
Oh,
No,
dear.
No. Heavens, have to digest that wonderful breakfast I had. No. For lunch, speaking of tofu, I have a brick of tofu that is currently sitting on the counter draining, and I'm going to sizzle it up and flavor it and have that. And my wife discovered a recipe that uses brown rice noodles, artichoke hearts, and spinach, like a stroganoff type thing. So we made a whole bunch of it last night. We're going to eat the leftovers today along with the tofu.
And you pan fry it? Is that what you do?
Actually, we made that in a, you mean the tofu?
The tofu.
Oh, the tofu. Oh my gosh, we use an air fryer.
Okay.
And I mean, I could do an hour on how to make tofu now, but
Well, we'll have you back. I'm very interested in how to make tofu taste like anything.
oh yeah, it's kind of like the crouton of the vegetable world in the sense that once you make it, then it's the flavoring you add to it. If you take tofu and prepare it and sizzle it up, and you can pan fry it, you can do it in the air fryer, you can deep fry it, and then you put something on it, say like barbecue sauce, and then you just finish it off with a little more baking. Then you have barbecue flavored tofu.
Huh.
I mean, it's that simple.
Okay, well, we're going to listen to, this is one of the songs that you chose. We're going to listen to the New Beats, Bread and Butter. And when we come back, Dr. Tulin's going to tell us what he's going to have for dinner. And if you're just joining us, this is KSQM 91.5. We're doing the Working on Wellness Radio Forum with Dr. Kip Tulin. He is the retired physician with the Dungeness Valley Health and Wellness Clinic and a retired pediatrician. And we're talking about plant-based eating, good for you, good for the earth. And we've been talking about what Dr. Tulin eats for breakfast and lunch, and now we're going to hear, what are you having for dinner, Dr. Tulin?
Well, before I get to that, I have to say that I Like Bread and Butter is one of the great songs of all time. Probably goes down in popularity with like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and other great tomes. Well, actually, it's interesting because I'm not so sure that we're going to have dinner tonight, because we're going to eat a late lunch, and there's no rule that says you have to eat 3 squares a day. You know, you can put that in the dustbin along with stuff like, if you go swimming within 30 minutes of eating, you'll get a cramp and die. You know, you go, that's old stuff.
So you eat when you're hungry.
Yeah, and I'm a snacker, and that's one of the things that I've changed, because we have a pantry, and it's easy to walk to the pantry and get a handful of something. So what I did, since I am a snacker, is we got large containers of mixed unsalted nuts and some walnuts, and basically nuts are my favorite go-to snack. It's easy, you just get a small handful, crunch them down. It's a matter of changing lifestyle habits, and the habits will pay off over time.
And so why is eating a vegan diet good for the world?
Well, basically, what's happening is that the Earth's resources are really getting strained. I mean, I know everyone is just reeling from the great river flood of rain that we just had, and maybe more next week. But most other parts of the world do not have the luxury of the amount of water we have. And those numbers I gave a little earlier, where it takes roughly 5,000 to 9,000 gallons of water to basically produce 1 pound of beef on your table, as opposed to 300 gallons of water to produce a pound of tofu, make a huge difference. And as the world gets hotter, it's going to be harder to source water. And so good for the world means you're producing less need for water, less of the byproducts of animal husbandry, like the methane, the sewage, the waste, things like that. So pound for pound, you're getting a much better deal with vegetables, and they're better for you.
We're talking about a vegan lifestyle, and we talked a little bit about all the things that are available to you when you eat a vegan diet, and tell us a little bit about coconut oil and other so-called superfoods.
Well, actually, before I get to that, one of the things that we should probably edge away from are the labels like vegan, vegetarian. Whoops, sorry, I just hit my own popper stopper in here. Vegan, vegetarian. There's so many terms that are used, and that's why the idea of plant-based is there. I'm painting with a very broad brush, and what I'm saying for people's health is to look at introducing more plants, fruits, and vegetables into your diet. It doesn't mean you can't go out and have that delicious porterhouse steak. Come on. I was raised on that, and it's only in the last 30 years that I've changed. So it's not an all or none phenomenon, is what I'm saying. Now,
Somebody's calling.
Somebody's calling. It can't be for me. I've turned my cell phone off. Now there are a few things too that we can kind of dispense with. One is the idea of a superfood. We've all seen the ads. It's everything from goji berries to whatever is the next trending thing, and the best thing you can eat is a wide-ranging diet. It's funny because when I think of paleo diets, for example, first of all, no one knows exactly what paleo people really ate, and the real answer is they ate what they could get their hands on. And that's the same with us. Whatever's most available is what you're going to eat. So, for example, when you shop, if you stick to the outside part of the supermarket where they have the fresh foods and the dairy aisle and all that, it's all the stuff they have to restock frequently, you'll basically be buying a healthier bunch of food than if you stick to the center aisles where it's all highly processed. And I always tell people, if you can't pronounce the names of the chemicals they put in the food, probably don't buy it. Don't buy it. But one of the things I came upon recently was about coconuts and coconut oil. There's been quite a trend in the United States to put coconut in just about everything, and it turns out that might be a little tainted, in the sense that the oil in coconuts is actually a saturated fat, and it is not good for you. A lot of the press for coconut oil came because they looked at the island-dwelling people. They looked at the island-dwelling people and looked at how healthy they were and all this, and you go, well, they do eat coconuts, but they also live a more stress-free lifestyle. They're very vigorous, and they eat fruits and vegetables and things from the sea, and the coconut is just a small part of it. And while it might be nice to brush through your hair, it does the same thing to your arterial system as the cholesterol from meat products.
We have a question from a listener.
Ooh.
Janet would like to know, what about eating salmon or cod?
I think there's nothing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not, when I come from the part of my being a vegetarian, I go, I don't eat fish, but it's a better source of protein. The trick with salmon is to make sure, though, that you get wild salmon. The salmon that, when I've been doing research on the salmon that are raised in pens, they're not healthy. As a matter of fact, a lot of people say, hey, I want to eat salmon so I can get my vitamin D, and I go, that's wild salmon, because they eat the plankton that make the vitamin D, where the salmon that are raised in pens, they're just like people living indoors. They don't get any, and they're vitamin D deficient.
And so what about tell us a little bit, since we're on meat here,
Meat, fish.
meat, fish, organic chicken over regular raised chicken. I mean, we hear an awful lot about eat grass-fed beef instead of corn-fed beef, eat organic chicken, those kinds of things. And I've also heard people say, if you're eating meat, limit red meat to no more than 3 times a week. And that's not just 3 dinners a week, that's 3 times a week. So tell us a little bit about how, if you're not a vegetarian, how can you incorporate the good food that you really need to add to your diet while you're still trying to limit the amount of animal protein that you get?
It's actually a really good question. The purer the source of the beef or the chicken, the better, because they're not being exposed to additives, antibiotics, things like that. So if you can do that, it's more expensive. I say do it. I happen to be a big fan of cows. I frequently go out to a local place called Freedom Farm, where they teach natural horsemanship, and I get to ride a rescue horse named Bob, my buddy Bob, and we get to go out sometimes and play with the cows. Those cows are fed on the farm. They eat the food they eat is grown on the farm, and then they take the fertilizer from the cows and refertilize the fields. It is the ultimate in natural farming technique. But most of the beef products and chicken products that come from the large companies are not produced that way.
Let's take a little break here. This is a voice that Dr. Tulin, and then we're going to listen to Harry Nielsen with Coconut. And it is 2:57. I'm Olive Martini. Dr. Kip Tulin has been with us. He's been talking about plant-based eating, good for you, good for the earth. Dr. Tulin, is there anything else you'd kind of like to leave our audience with?
Oh, just, use this time wisely. Inside every little bit of struggle we have, sometimes there's a hidden gift. And even all this trouble we're going through right now, there are things we can do. Improve your life, improve your health, be kind, and be positive.
Wonderful. Dr. Kip Tulin is the former volunteer medical director for the Dungeness Valley Health and Wellness Clinic. The Dungeness Valley Health and Wellness Clinic is one of 32 free clinics in the state of Washington. The clinic is open to the public on Monday and Thursday evenings. The doors open at 4:30 p.m. and no appointments are necessary. The Sequim Free Clinic is here to serve anyone who has no health insurance or is underfunded by their health insurance. In other words, they cannot meet their deductible. The free clinic is located at 777 North 5th Avenue. You can go online at sequimfreeclinic.org. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Tulin.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And when you come back, maybe we'll have you tell us some tofu recipes.
Oh, if you dare, I will do that.
I would love that. Here is Albert Collins, Pushin'.